tomorrow. Right? So, is tomorrow the root of fear? Right? Which means, can one live? Please, we are talking about daily living, not just theories. Can one live without tomorrow? You're following this? Do it. That is, if you have had pain yesterday, physical pain, to finish with that pain yesterday, not carry it over to today and to tomorrow. Do you understand the question? It is the carrying over, which is the time, that brings fear. I wonder if you can do all this. So, it is totally possible and absolutely possible that fear, psychological fear, can end if you apply what is being said. The cook can make a marvelous dish, but if you're not hungry, if you don't eat it, then it remains merely on the menu and no value. But whereas if you eat it, apply it, go into it, by yourself you will see that fear can absolutely psychologically come to an end. So the mind is free from this terrible burden man has carried. Right? Then the next question is, which is part of our life, which is pleasure. Right? Are you afraid to tackle it? Because for most of us, pleasure is an extraordinarily important thing. Pleasure of possession, pleasure of achievement, pleasure of fame, pleasure of doing something skillfully, and so on. Pleasure. Sexual, sensory, and intellectual. Man who has a great deal of knowledge is delights in that knowledge. But as we pointed out, with that knowledge goes also ignorance. Because knowledge is never complete, but he forgets that part and only remembers the knowledge which he has acquired. And in that there is great pleasure. Right? Sensory, sexual, romantic, sentimental, intellectual, having experiences which are sensory. So this whole combination of various elements bring this extraordinary feeling of pleasure. Right? Why shouldn't we have pleasure? Do you understand? Religions throughout the world have said don't. Only have the pleasure to serve God. You understand? All your senses, sexual, all that must be dissipated, put away. This is what the organized religions throughout the world have said. We are not saying that. We are saying investigate it. Why man, human being, demands, pursues this in pleasure. Why? God says, there's the pleasure, physical pleasure, sexual. Seeing a lovely sunset, seeing the beauty of a mountain, the calm waters of a lovely lake, to observe it. But having observed it, having seen it, and enjoyed it, the mind has a remembrance of that enjoyment and pursues that enjoyment, right? That is the continuation of pleasure. Having seen the sunset, taken delight in it, not end it, but remember it, and the demand of the previous pleasure to be continued. So thought, right? You're following? Thought interferes with that moment of perception, then remembers it, then wants more of it. And you've seen all this. Sex, you know all about it. The remembrance of it, the picture, the excitement, the whole mechanism of thought operating and pursuing that, right? Why does thought do this? You are following my question? Why does thought take over an incident that's over, remember it and pursue it? The pursuit is the pleasure. Right, you're following? Why? Why does thought do this? Is it part of our education, part of our tradition, part of our habit? Every man does this. Better include the woman too, because otherwise. Every human being does this. Why? Go into yourself. Don't look at me. Why do you pursue pleasure? Is that creates for isolation? You following this? Is that what makes for so-called the individual? My pleasure. And it's private. All pleasure is private. Unless you go to football and all that kind of stuff. Pleasure is private. Is that one of the reasons why human beings secretly pursue this pleasure? Because it gives them importance to themselves. You following all this? And therefore, pleasure may be the cause of this tremendous isolation. As a group, as a family, as a tribe, as a nation. I wonder if you see all this. So when one sees the truth of it, the truth